Today is New Year's Day, but you're gonna see this the day after, but just know this is New Year's Day, where I am in this particular moment. Depending on who you are, New Year's can mean a lot of different things. It's a fresh start, it's a chance to make promises to yourself, it's a time for improvement, it's a time for a lot of people for gardening. It's the official start of gardening season here, and today I'm going to be planting my very first seeds with you. During that week between Christmas and New Year's, I know it's pretty common for people to start planning out their gardens, to start dreaming about seeds, and to start dreaming of warmer weather, which is exactly what I did, and y'all saw that. So today we're going to be starting seeds. I'm also going to be sharing with you some of the goals that I have for this year. I know a lot of people don't really buy into New Year's resolutions. I never really do. Last year I tried making resolutions. It didn't work, so I figured why not try again, see if it works this year. So my two main goals for this year are to stay focused on the garden. No matter what it takes, stay focused. I have ADHD, focus, struggle bus. Big time. Lots of squirrels inside of this head. Part of that for me is trying to plan things out, get more organized, and that's exactly what I did. So I made up this sheet. I kind of researched information off the internet. I went to like Johnny Seeds. I looked up blogs. I was trying to figure out everything humanly possible that I can fit on one little sheet of paper that will tell me most of the things that I need to know when it comes to the seeds. This is the vegetable sheet. I've also got one that I'm almost finished with for the flowers and a separate one for herbs. This one has, whether it's a transplant or direct sow, which one happens to be recommended, whether some of them need to be surface sown. Some of the seeds like Swiss chard, beets, okra, stuff like that really benefit from being soaked for like anywhere from 8 to 24 hours depending on the seed. And then I have how many weeks prior to the frost that I need to start these, as well as the actual date that I need to start them according to my frost, how many weeks before the frost I need to set them out, like when I actually need to transplant them, as well as the actual date. Because if I just put 2 weeks ahead of time, that doesn't work for my brain. I need both. And then also the same thing for direct sown, and then the date on there that I need to start direct sowing them, how often I want to succession sow them, whether it's weekly, every other week, monthly. I don't have any on here that's weekly. I've got the date on there when I need to start the last transplant. For like cabbage, I want to get them started ahead of time by June 3rd so that I can have them out in the garden for the winter crop of the cabbages. Well, for the fall crop of cabbages. And then also the day that I need to put it in the ground. So I've got it when I need to start it in the green, well, it's not gonna be in the greenhouse, but in my grow room when I need to start the transplant, and then also when that transplant needs to go in the ground, or if it's recommended for direct sow, I've got the date on here for the last planting, and then plant spacing for when I actually transplant it. So I've got all this information on here. I'm gonna sort this a couple different ways, alphabetically by start date, and then again also by when it needs to be in the ground by, just so it's I can just look at it and I can see this is what it is. And if I sort it according to date, I can just look at it in ascending order, descending order, whatever you want to call it. But I can look and I can see when I need to put these in the ground. And I'm planning on compiling a bunch of different stuff that I need for gardening and putting it into like a little binder. I'm going to put those inside of those little sheet protectors, so I can just carry it around with me. It's good year after year after year, as long as I'm living in this location and my frost date doesn't change terribly. The cool thing about that is I'm also going to be keeping a garden journal inside of that same binder so that I can keep track of when my actual first and last frost date are, whether or not planting on these particular dates works well. So hopefully I'll be able to compile this into a pretty effective tool for myself, but we'll see. According to this and some friends that I have who live in a local climate, this may not be for everybody, but for me personally, it's good to start several of the colder crops farther ahead of time because there's not a long enough spring season for them to really be able to grow and flourish. So I'm making the conscious decision with the combination of last year's gardening season as well as some input from some friends, particularly Sage and Stone Homestead. If you guys don't know Sage and Stone Homestead, make sure you check her out. I'll link her down below. She has tons of information and she's just a wealth of knowledge, always willing to share. And we live in a very similar climate. And last year when I was struggling with all of my brassicas and kind of the colder crop stuff, she had said that she generally starts them in like the end of December, beginning of January. So I'm going to take her advice and I'm going to plant them early. So we're going to start onions, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, celeriac, and celery. Whew. So I made up 5 different trays. I'm going to plant all these in there. We really love our onions around here. Onions and garlic are major parts of our cooking. So I've got 2 flats for onions. I'm gonna try a different planting method than I usually do. In the past, I've always planted them just in an open thing. I make like troughs, sprinkle them in there, and then later on you have to come through and you trim off the tops, and then when they're ready, you have to transplant them. You have to separate all the roots out and transplant them. I hate separating roots out. So I'm not gonna do that this year. I tried the same method last year, but I never actually ended up getting the onions in the ground. So technically this is a sort of new to me process. So then I'm also gonna do 1 flat of the cauliflower and broccoli, 1 flat of cabbage, 1 flat of, I'm short flat, whatever. I'll make 1 more flat later. 1 flat of the celery and celeriac, and then 1 flat of Brussels sprouts. Actually, I'll probably do a half flat of Brussels sprouts and then fill in the other half of it with cabbage. Cabbage is kind of my main jam. I love cabbage. It's delicious. All I really have to do to get ready for this is figure out which varieties I'm gonna grow and write tags for them. I'm just gonna write 1 tag for each variety because I don't want to write out, I don't know what 72 times 6 is, but that's a lot. So I'm just doing 1 for each. When I transplant them, kind of just depending on where they go, I'm more than likely gonna put each of the varieties in the same area with these particular seeds. I'm just gonna have to try and keep track or write up new tags when I'm ready to transplant them. I know I'm shooting myself in the foot, but whatever. The second kind of key part of my resolutions, so to speak, that I have for this year is improving my gut microbiome to the point that I can digest these vegetables. I know it's super weird. I'm growing all of this stuff as a predominant carnivore, but I really want to be able to partake in my garden. I want to be able to make nice dishes, but they just don't do well for me in my body. I have something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, as well as actually like diagnosed leaky gut. And that is where the junctions in the walls of my intestines are not like super closed like they're supposed to be. They're kind of loose, and so things that I consume can sometimes leak out of my gut into my bloodstream. They can cause all different kinds of just digestive upset. They can cause mood disorders, you name it. It kind of has somewhat of an effect on that. So in order to do that, I need to increase my consumption of fermented foods. I plan to incorporate lots of fermented raw dairy as well as vegetables in my meals, but I'm also going to be going keto/carnivore, kind of a ketovore type of thing, as well as incorporating kind of a fasting routine in there, just giving my digestive system a break and also giving it the things, bone broth and other sorts of things that can kind of help to heal up my messed up digestive system. So part of that is going to be in lunch today. For those of you who might be kind of newer to my channel, maybe you're not familiar with what a gut microbiome is, and that is the contents of your intestines. Well, I mean, really your gut is everything from your mouth to your other end of your digestive system and everything in between. But what most people are talking about when they're referring to the gut is your intestines. And the gut microbiome specifically is all of the microbes that are inside of your gut. Those bacteria, enzymes, all of those sorts of things that you have control over are what predominantly digests the food that you eat. So if you have a messed up gut microbiome like I do, you can get it from, excessive sugar substitute consumption. Antibiotics plays a huge role in that. Any medications that you could have taken either currently or throughout your life. Environmental things, your proximity to, magnetic waves via towers and there's all kinds of things. Exposure to chemicals, lots of different things can affect it. And there's also lots of different ways that you can heal it. There's lots of different ways that you can mitigate the damage that might have been caused. For me personally, keto just works really well for me, especially carnivore. It's January and I had intended to take part in what is known as World Carnivore Month. That's the month of January where a lot of people follow a carnivore diet for the whole month. I'm definitely not going to do it completely, and I don't know how much I'm going to do it, but I am definitely going to be following a keto diet, doing all the things that go along with that. Is it going to be an instant fix? fix? No. It's a process. That's why it's a resolution that I'm working on throughout the year. Hopefully by the time harvest season comes along, I'll be able to actually eat this without any pain. One thing that I would like to know is, what are your guys' New Year's resolutions, or what are some things in general that you're working on to better yourself, to improve yourself, to meet goals that you have down the road? What steps are you guys taking to accomplish those goals? I would love to know about it down below. Got the onions out of the way, and then I realized I didn't show you guys what I'm actually growing. I know everybody wants to know which varieties I'm actually going to be growing. So, Texas Early Grondo, Walla Walla, Australian Brown, Yellow of Parma, no picture on that one, Texas Early White Onion, Sofire Onion, we don't go through a whole lot of red onions, and Yellow Sweet Spanish Utah. And with the onions, I went ahead, most of these are older seeds. A couple of them I got this year, but most of them are older. So I went ahead and just put 3 seeds in each hole. We'll see which ones grow. And if I do end up having to separate them, which I'm sure I will, it's not a big deal because I'm just separating 3 of them. I'm not separating a whole tray of them, which is exhausting and so obnoxious. For the cabbages, we have Glory of Unicorn, Chinook, Island Cabbage, Bobcat, Cheers, Green Boy, Early Round Dutch Cabbage, Golden Acre. Oh, I got 2 golden acres. Charleston Wakefield Cabbage, Copenhagen Market, and Brunswick. And for the broccoli, we have, I didn't look at that, Waltham 29. I have 2 different types of Waltham 29. One from Survival Garden Seeds and one from Baker Creek. And then this one is a burgundy broccoli from Haas. And then I have 2 different types of Romanesco broccoli. These ones are very old seeds. I'm not sure how they'll germinate. We'll find out. And a Calabrese green sprouting broccoli. And a solstice broccoli. What did I name here? Never mind, I don't have solstice broccoli. And then for the cauliflower, we have purple. I don't have any of that either. Okay, and then a snowball cauliflower. Just realized looking at this that the half tray I was thinking of doing for red cabbage, I can actually do half of that red cabbage and half of that Napa cabbage. Napa/Chinese cabbage. I really like kimchi, so I'm really hoping that these end up working out. I have Golden Beauty, Spring Crisp, just a standard Napa cabbage, a Hilton Chinese cabbage, and a Spring Crisp Chinese cabbage. The same one. And then I have 3 different varieties of red cabbage. I have Red Express, Halibos, which has that cool little pointy part, which I'm not sure how much that will confuse me when I think it might be bolting. We'll find out. And Red Acre cabbage that is just beyond gorgeous. I love this. I've grown that before and it was absolutely beautiful. And the last one, Long Island Improved Brussels sprouts. But then Haas had some different varieties. We have a Catskill Brussels sprout and a Red Bull Brussels sprout. I only have 1 variety of celery, and it's a Deline. I'm planning on doing a half a tray of celery and celeriac. There is a Monstropolgi? No clue. Probably not the right one. Giant Prague and a Mars pelleted from Johnny's. I know you guys don't need to see the whole thing, but this is how I'm spending New Year's Day. Those are the seeds that I am starting the first week of January, the first day of January actually, of the 2024 garden season. I hope you guys are as excited as I am because I am super pumped for the beginning of this garden season. I'm going to be trying so incredibly hard to maintain, to keep up on the garden, to not overwhelm myself, and hopefully not get too carried away in the garden so it stays something that is attainable. Something that I can maintain. We'll see how it goes. At any rate, make sure that you guys remember that this is not necessarily what you guys need to be starting right now, but it is something that I am starting right now. I would imagine that most people who are just getting into winter right now, most likely onions you can definitely start, but everything else, kind of do your research, talk to your neighbors, see what they grow, see when they grow it, and that's kind of the best way that you can get information about your particular garden season. Talk to your neighbors, see what they do. You can also talk to people who have kind of a similar sort of garden pattern to you. It's a great way to get information and cut down on the stress and cut down on any kind of waste or any disappointing garden season. Just talk to people around you. I didn't really have time to go into a whole lot of detail about how I start my seeds. If you guys are interested in that, let me know down below. I do have a couple of other videos on how I start seeds, but you know, it's good to have a refresher. It's good to have a new video. If that's something you guys be interested in, let me know down below. If you guys want to know what we did last time, make sure you click this video right here. That'll answer all your questions and keep you up to date. Thanks for coming along with me, keeping me company on New Year's. Peace out, sauerkraut.